Okay, we're talking about guilty pleasure films. This is a tough one to talk about in a way because I'm very torn on the subject matter. Mostly because I was asked about this recently at a dinner I was at. Someone was asking what it was kind of a group question. What our films that we had that were not well received by most people, but we enjoy them despite them maybe not actually being great films. And I'm like, look, if you enjoy a film enough, you're not going to say it's not a great film. Like, unless you can objectively say it's a bad film, but I enjoy the fuck out of it, whether it be like for insane amounts of like nostalgia or something because you grew up on it. But most of the time, you'll watch a film that you loved as a kid, and then you'll be like, "Wow, this actually does suck." I enjoy it, but it really does just suck. So I've got three that I kind of have to mind. The one I was talking about with him was the Resident Evil films. I know I've already got everyone's disliking and left the video. Great, 10 out of 10. Good job, Julian. You've clickbaited yourself in oblivion. No, I enjoyed the Resident Evil films. If you saw, I've done both a film review series on all of them. Yikes. But I also I recently rewatched them in partnership with watching all the rest of Paul W.S. Anderson's films to do a video on him. That was insane. But the thing is, that's a series where I'm still very torn on it. Like, I have different quirks of enjoyment of each film, and I can be completely dependent on how I'm feeling at the time. Like, I could be bored out of my mind watching my favorite film in the series, which is insane because it's Retribution, and it's the best film ever made. That's a genuine 5-star movie to me because it knows what it's doing, it has a shit ton of fun with it, and then you leave happy. It's easy. A little bit disappointed because you're left with this great ending of, oh my god, they're at the White House and they have to fight a fucking army of demons, and then you're left with the worst film in the franchise immediately after that, which is so disappointing. Imagine having a film series where your worst film is worse than Resident Evil Apocalypse. Apocalypse is the only film in the series where next to Final Chapter, I can hardly stand watching. Apocalypse, I'm starting to enjoy it more, but I know it's a piece of shit. Like, I enjoy the first one. General popcorn, fodder, action, horror film. Don't care that it's a bad adaptation. Couldn't give less of a shit. I like Assassin's Creed, that movie, because I enjoy it. I grew up with the games. Weirdly, unlike Resident Evil, I actually played the fucking games. And I watched it, I'm like, this is a terrible adaptation. But I like the film. Same with Death Note. Terrible adaptation, but I enjoy the film. It's not great, but I enjoy it. Maybe those are guilty pleasures. Fuck me. Assassin's Creed 2016, Death Note, the Adam Wingard film. Holy shit. See, I was thinking of more films like, Resident Evil Retribution is a film for me I consider a 5-star film, and I'm like, I understand that people dislike it, and that the general consensus is that these movies are stupid, because they are. They're fucking fun. They're the best kind of popcorn fodder, and they're just insanely stylized and amazing. Stupid as shit, but they just know how to hit perfection to some weird capacity. But again, don't like Apocalypse. Extinction's fun. Afterlife is fun. Retribution is the best, and Final Chapter sucks shit. So that was my discussion with this guy. And he also likes them as well. And he's played the games and he still likes the movies because he understands that they're just shitty action movies, but not shitty ones where you can write them off as like most of what Bruce Willis's late level career was, but just as something that can actually be really fun that you don't really get bored with because it's just always doing shit. And that's great. I really enjoy that. Like, each film has a completely different style because the people making it, not the director, but the higher-ups at Capcom were like, oh, we want it to be a Mad Max level, like, type of apocalypse. We want it to be in the city of Raccoon City. We want this one to be mostly a vlog, and this one's going to be like an actual video game where they go underground, and each section is like a video game, and they have to fight different mini-bosses that have been set up in the films prior. Isn't that great? And the last one, what if we don't have a budget? Hey, they went too hard on the realism instead of doing the cartoonish shit like they should have. Anyway, at least that movie has the infamous line, the Trinity of Bitches. Great line. For me, other guilty pleasures, which are films that people have been like, how can you give those 5 stars, would be Scooby-Doo 2002. I love that film. I adore it. Weirdly, I actually think the second film is much better as both a film and as an adaptation, because I love the Scooby-Doo animated series, but that's my nostalgic kick, is always for the original film. Always loved it, rewatched it endlessly as a child, still love it today. Severely disappointed that they're actually doing a double feature at the Astor this October with Scooby-Doo 1 and 2 in the cinema. Holy shit, the Astor is a single screen cinema in Melbourne. It's insane, I love it. But they're doing it the day after my birthday, which is also annoying because I won't be in the country. I'm going to be in a different country when they screen it. I'm like, you fucking bastards. Almost cancelled the whole trip just so I could watch 2 movies in the cinema. And one of them I already saw. I saw Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed at the Astor like 3 years ago. It was the 6 film and a 7 film lineup of sequels, and it was a mystery movie. We were going to leave, and it started, and this is like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'd been there since like 9 o'clock the night before. We'd been there for over 12 hours, and then they had Scooby-Doo 2 come on. I'm like, we're staying, we're watching this shit, I love this movie. And it was a blast. So, questionably, despite the sudden resurgence of, hey, James Gunn did write some fun movies before he did, I guess, Super and the Guardians of the Galaxy films, yeah, I really love Scooby-Doo 2002. The reason why I don't like saying it's a guilty pleasure is because I don't feel guilty about enjoying it. See, things like Assassin's Creed, and I really would not actually pin Death Note. I just enjoyed the adaptation despite it being I enjoyed it as a film. It's not a good film, though. At least Assassin's Creed, I actually rate that highly. I gave that like 4 stars, 4 out of 5, whereas like Death Note I gave like 2.5. I liked it more than most people did, but I didn't love it. Whereas Assassin's Creed, that's probably more guilty pleasure zone, same as Resident Evil, films that communically... Why are these all video game adaptations? They're all adaptations, holy shit, they're all adaptations. The only one that isn't is Sucker Punch. But that's the one that feels like it's an adaptation. It's just taking from so many things. It's taking from anime, it's taking from war films, it's taking from so many different things, fantasy stuff as well, chucking them all in there with layers upon layers. That's a film that also is a guilty pleasure of mine, so I think realistically, any Resident Evil film except for Apocalypse and Final Chapter, Assassin's Creed 2016, and I don't know why I have to say 2016. We all know what year that movie came out. It changed cinema. And Sucker Punch, but the extended cut. Because the extended cut is actually good. I don't like the theatrical cut. I think the theatrical cut is awful. And I watched that a lot in my youth because I thought it was for me, It kind of is the epitome of the teenage boy movie, which is bad. Because you watch the extended cut and you're like, ooh, maybe not. This is like a Jennifer's Body situation, but not as good, because Jennifer's Body is actually a good film. With Sucker Punch, I'm like... It's still not a good film. I still really enjoy it though. It's just a visual splendor of slop, and I just enjoy the shit out of it. And I think that's kind of the point of a guilty pleasure, because again, you shouldn't feel guilty, is my criticism with a guilty pleasure thing. You should never feel guilty about enjoying something unless it's actually harmful to people. Like murder, or whatever they do in the church. But aside from that stuff, we're talking about movies, things that are really important. It'd be like saying that your guilty pleasure is The Rise of Skywalker, like something that divides the fan base. I know that Last Jedi is the one that divides the fan base, but I actually like that film. Nevertheless, I wouldn't pin that as a guilty pleasure. That's just I don't know, that just divided things for people. But with Assassin's Creed, I find so much merit in what it's actually talking about. I do like the action scenes, I like the way it's shot, it's got such an interesting dynamic. It's like a Quantum of Solace in a way, it's shot in this really particular and edited in this really particular way that's meant to represent how the characters are thinking and feeling. Quantum of Solace is a very disliked film because it's so messy and choppy, and I don't love it in the chronology of the Bond films, especially the Craig chronology, but I do like it as an immediate sequel to the best James Bond film because it's just pure desperation and just the worst kind of mind state to be in. The film embodies the character's mind state. It's great. Head state? he's depressed and angry. Two things that shouldn't be mixed together. That should have been in the ad. He's depressed and he's angry. Also, he's James Bond. But he's gonna drive hard and have a lot of cuts. Weird how I like that film, but I don't like Final Chapter for Resident Evil. Crazy. But yeah. But no, you get, again, Scooby-Doo is the only one of this list where I find a lot more enjoyment, where like, it's not a film I would actively point out what is wrong with it, you know? I think for most people with guilty pleasure films is they could be like, I understand why people dislike it, but I don't meet many people who dislike Scooby-Doo, you know, in contrast to, again, Assassin's Creed, Resident Evil, the Sucker Punch. I know why people dislike them, mostly the adaptation element of the other ones that aren't Sucker Punch. And it's perfectly fair. It's the same as... See, this is where it kind of gets into the territory of, am I just liking films that other people just don't like, and that's a guilty pleasure? Like, I feel like guilty pleasures have to be films that you understand is objectively a bad film, you know? Like, I like the Aliens films a lot, and majority of them, flawless films. The thing is, I still like Prometheus and Alien, Covenant, and even Romulus, and all three of those films are insanely divisive for the fan bases. Same goes for the Star Wars one I mentioned. It's like, I don't like Rise of Skywalker though, so let's say Last Jedi. So it's like, they're films that I enjoy more than a lot of people do, and I don't think that that's a guilty pleasure thing. I think it's just for how people look at a property. You know, they look at a franchise, they look at a collective narrative, they look at a continual narrative, and they're critical of that. Much like with Resident Evil and Assassin's Creed, they're looking at it as an adaptation and saying it's a piece of shit, and I'm looking at it as popcorn fuel. You know, where most people have the Marvel films or something, where it's just kind of generic action films. Anything that The Rock has been in, the generic action film kind of stuff, where generally they're kind of really shit anyway. The Marvel films aren't all completely shit, but like the popcorn fodder. But that's just the thing. I just enjoy the movies, and it's perfectly fine in my mind. But again, that's why I wouldn't put Scooby-Doo in the guilty pleasure territory. But I feel like people would, because they'd be like, yeah, but Julian, it's not that good of a film. Even I say that I think that the second film is a better film, but I give the first one a higher rating because I love the first one. The first one for me is like an undefinable masterpiece. It's actually an almost perfect in my mind if they had have included like one or two deleted scenes, because it's a fucking mess. That movie is objectively not great. Like, it is just an absolute catastrophe of a film, despite the cast. Excellent cast. There's so much wrong with that movie. Actually, now that I think about it, it probably is a perfect guilty pleasure film, because it is just such a fucking mess of a movie, but I absolutely adore it, so much so that I can't see... Like, I see past those flaws, that I don't even recognize them most of the time. At least with the Resident Evil films, at least with Assassin's Creed, at least with Sucker Punch, I recognize its flaws. And those flaws can delineate as to whether or not I enjoy the film. Like, sometimes my mindset would just be like, I just can't look past the flaws in this film today. I'm just not enjoying it as much as I usually do. Or, fuck it, I don't give a shit that this all sucks. I had a blast. This is the best thing ever. You know? That's the sway. So I think the perfect middle ground really is Scooby-Doo, because it's just the perfect, for me at least. I know it has flaws. I know it's not perfect. But I enjoy the shit out of it, and I absolutely love it. I want to watch Scooby-Doo. I love it so much. I have a signed autograph. I got two, actually. But one I'm looking right at, which is actually from Neil Fanning. I'm gonna grab it. It's a little dusty. Yeah. So he's the guy who voiced the dog in the movie. He's an Aussie. I got him to sign two things. I got him to sign a VHS copy of the film that I had bought on eBay a couple weeks earlier. I thought that one was a fun idea in terms of the VHS, because it's literally green. It's a green case. It's like tremendous. I'm like, this is amazing. But yeah, no, that's probably I think that is my perfect guilty pleasure film when you really think about it. It's not a perfect film. It's far from it. It's very messy. It's very choppy. if I looked at it completely without any nostalgic lens or any kind of just love for the franchise or love for the film that I've had previously, which again is nostalgia, I would look at it completely differently. If I was in someone else's eyes, I would just be like, it's okay, it's fun, I guess. It hits that, like, edge of, like, early 2000s, like, pre 9/11 cinema, of just being like, even though it's a 2002 film, but they obviously for special effects would have filmed it in 2001, hits that tropes of just, what the fuck is this time period? Like, Fast and Furious, The Fast and The Furious, I should say, and a couple others are in that category. Those are also considered probably guilty pleasures for mine. I enjoy those films. Not all of them, though. I'm much more cynical on those films. But again, I find pleasure in watching them. I know that they're not great films, or they're not perfect. But yeah, so it's a weird selection to have, I feel like. And of course, controversial. Like, if I'm talking about it in a video like this, and I'm actively saying, I know people don't like this, but that's how I know that that's the guilty pleasure. Whereas with Scooby-Doo, I'm not even going to say it's a guilty pleasure. I'm not even going to say that anyone would give it negative connotations because it's a perfect film. Fuck all, yo. That's how much I'm going to defend that film in contrast to stuff like Sucker Punch, to stuff like Resident Evil and Assassin's Creed, films I know that people will be, like, very critical and cynical of, and I'm like, I don't care. If you don't like them, you don't like them, that's perfectly fine. But I'll fight you if you don't like Scooby-Doo 2002. Or Scooby-Doo 2, fuck it, they're great. I don't know. Cinema, it's something alright. Anyway, I'm going to go. Let me know your guilty pleasure films, and how would you define a guilty pleasure? Because would you define it as something that you know objectively is not a good film, and you know objectively most people hate it, you know, whether it's critically panned on Rotten Tomatoes, or if it's like your Letterboxd user friends or IMDb friends hate it, whatever it be. I don't know, give me a list down below. Top 3 guilty pleasure films. Let me know, and I'll say that you're wrong. They're all great. Shut up. Because that's what you should say to most people. If you know that that's how you know it's a guilty pleasure. Because you just gotta say, I don't give a fuck if you don't like the movie. I love it. Let's move on. Bye.